The purpose of this research is to find out if children who are exposed to domestic violence grow up to be abusive towards others, including family members, children, and/or spouse. Do you think that a child who witnesses domestic violence becomes abusive to their spouse as an adult? Studies show that a boy who sees his mother being abused is 10 times more likely to abuse his female partner as an adult. 15 million or more children in the United States experience childhood domestic violence. These children are at greater risk for repeating the cycle as adults by entering into abusive relationships and/or becoming abusers themselves. In most cases, the abusers have multiple cases involving domestic violence from either the same abused person or multiple people. I will be conducting a research to test my hypothesis. Children who experience domestic violence grow up to be abusive. I will use cases in New Haven, Connecticut, using records from the New Haven Police Department. My hypothesis is children who experience domestic violence grow up to be abusive. This will be tested by obtaining domestic violence records from New Haven Police Department. Chosen records would be from the last 2 years of people who have been accused of being a domestic violence abuser. A total of 50 people will be chosen randomly, 25 per year. A retrospective study will be done using qualitative interviews and surveys. And this is the literature review. For research in the city of New Haven between 2016 and 2018, there have been 1,010 reported cases of domestic violence, 480 for between 2016 and 2017, and 530 for 2017 and 2018. I chose 50 people to interview, again 25 per year. The questions when I did the qualitative interviews that were asked were, did you experience domestic violence as a child? Who was the abusive parent? Did your parent use any type of drugs? How many siblings were in the home? Were you also abused mentally, emotionally, physically, or sexually? Were you ever told by the abuser that it was okay to abuse your other parent, siblings, or anyone else? What type of abuse did you witness? Did you suffer from PTSD? Were you a juvenile delinquent? The survey questions that I asked were, how many times have you been accused of domestic violence? Who were you abusive towards? Was it your spouse, children, parents, or siblings? If you have children, have they witnessed you being abusive? When this meant to say, when do you get abusive? And what triggers your abusive behavior? Did you report the abuse to anyone when that person was a child? What has been the impact of the physical abuse in your own sense of self and your relationships? Are you willing to join a domestic violence program to help control your anger, feelings, aggression, relationships, etc.? What do you want people to understand about how it feels to be physically abused? From the research of the 50 people, 48 people were males that were the abusers, and 2 of them were females as the abuser. 32 of the 50 were exposed to domestic violence as a child. For all 32, the father or stepfather was the abuser. Other siblings were involved. Out of the 32, only 5 of them reported it to their school administrator, but if authorities got involved, their parents would play the happy family role, and the case would get dismissed. 20 out of the 32 stated that they believed their mother stayed in the relationship because the abuser was the breadwinner, and or their mothers believed that the abuser would eventually change into a good person. 35% were Caucasian, 40% were Hispanics, 25% were African American or other. 35 of them have involved children. At least half of the cases involve drugs and or alcohol. At least half of the people have been accused of domestic violence more than once. From the articles that I have read, I have learned that when children are exposed to domestic violence, they have high chances of becoming abusers themselves. In some cases, the abuser would tell the child that it's okay to abuse the other parent. The child grows up believing that this is the right way of treating a family member or spouse. Because the children have a natural tendency to identify with strength, they may ally themselves with the abuser and lose respect for their mother. The abuser would put the mother down in front of their children, telling them that the mother is crazy, stupid, ignorant, and that they don't have to listen to her. When becoming adults, if they are abusive toward their partner, they allow their children to witness it, which can continue the cycle of domestic violence. Children who are exposed to domestic violence are at higher risk of health problems as adults, which include mental health, depression, and anxiety. It can also include diabetes, heart disease, and poor self-esteem. A lot of the cases go unreported for many reasons. Some reasons include fear of the abuser, not being financially stable without the abuser's financial help. Some religions don't believe in separating from the abuser just for domestic violence because they might believe that with prayer, the abuser can change. Also, I meant to include that sometimes they don't want family members to find out about their relationships, like what they're going through with the abusive partner. So they might be embarrassed or afraid they're gonna get judged or anything like that. Other reasons include the mother not wanting to put their children through seeing their parents getting separated. The abuser might also threaten them not to leave, or they'll hurt them or take the kids. Also, children can grow up and start using drugs and having aggressive behavior towards others. In a case where the female is the abuser, it most likely goes unreported by the male victim because they might be embarrassed to report it and think that people might assume other things. In conclusion, children who experience domestic violence grow up to be abusive when witnessing domestic violence in a lot of cases. They are told that it's okay to be abusive towards the mother. According to my research, in many cases, the children grow up to be abusive towards their spouses and expose their children to it too. In a lot of cases, these abusive relationships go unreported because of reasons like fear of the abuser, not being financially stable without the abuser, for religion, because of the kids, or maybe the abuser has threatened them not to leave. If the victim is a male, it is more likely to go unreported due to embarrassment.